Hey everybody, welcome back to The Wealthy Sailor. Thank you for coming back to my channel, even though I haven't been using it very much. I decided to put out some more videos, and today's topic I want to talk about starting your own business, and specifically me starting my own business. So if you watched my other update video, you'll know I got into logistics. Logistics is not a business I've ever really pictured myself doing. It's not what I would consider something that I dreamed of doing. I always wanted to get into sort of real estate, banking, finance, stuff of that nature. I do have a background in logistics. I worked at a warehouse from the time I graduated high school until before I joined the military, so for about 4 years. And then after that, I joined the military, and being in the military, regardless of what your job is, you do have some logistics training. Especially after the military, when I went to flying drones as a civilian contractor, I would regularly have to pack up entire sites and move them. So it's a lot of like knowing how moving parts work and stuff like that. But this is a little different. So what I ended up getting into is more of trucking. The industry is defined as final mile delivery. I can't get too far into the specifics because I signed a non-disclosure agreement to get into specifics, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say. So I'm not really going to get into major details along those lines. With that said, I will talk about some general and broad ideas. So unfortunately, this is one of those things where if you are in the industry, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're not, you probably don't know the specifics about what I'm talking about. But the other people that are within this model, they know. And none of them have podcasts or YouTube channels. I assume it's all for the same reason. It's because of the non-disclosure agreements we had to sign. So you just have to deal with my broad overview of starting your own business. So this was not the first business I started. It's actually my third. The first one I opened up was back when I was 18. I tried to sell car parts online. A buddy of mine, we went on the IRS website and we got ourselves an EIN and a state tax state tax thing. We gave ourselves we made an LLC. This was before LegalZoom or anything like that, so we had to do everything just on the state website, which was very archaic and difficult to manage, especially for an 18-year-old who doesn't know anything. We then bought a website, we built a website for free and then published it. We paid the fee for publishing it, and we tried to make that work. We got a lot of traffic to our website. However, our website did not sell very much. And by very much, I mean we literally did not sell a single thing. Now, looking back on it, I now know better. I know that SEO, or search engine optimization, is an extremely difficult thing to learn how to do. Had I known everything I know now, I think I would have been much better off with it. We had a drop shipper and everything, and it would have been fine. But it was just very, very, very difficult as an 18-year-old, especially with very limited funding. We would get our paychecks from working at the warehouse, and me and my friend, and we would just put, $20-$30 in there every couple weeks, and it just, we never got anywhere. We never had any credit on the account or anything like that. And then after a year, when our website domain was up and everything like that, we just let everything die off and didn't do anything with it anymore. So we never actually sold anything. But what that did get me used to is state regulations with taxes and stuff like that, because Pennsylvania actually had, they might be one of the first states to do this, where online they had their entire small business handbook, and I printed it out and I read the whole thing cover to cover, and it was extremely easy to follow. So after that, I opened up a real estate business back when I was in the military. Me and my ex-wife had an idea of starting a business at a certain date, and I'm like, well, it's about 2 years from there. Let's go ahead and open up the business now and put cell phones or something in there, so that we can build credit under the business, because that's how I thought that worked. We never did. We literally opened it and then I closed it. Easy peasy. But nothing happened there. So this is my third business. So as I said, we're in logistics, and it's very complex. Things that I didn't think of when I first opened it. I did not think of how high healthcare costs are, workman's compensation insurance is, and general business insurance. And then since we're in logistics, we also have to have auto insurance. Auto insurance is a logistics company killer. Most logistics companies that shut down because of auto insurance. It's a lot. Also, I would tell people that if you're thinking about starting a business, my personal thought is that if I was to start another business, I want to avoid something with a high amount of payroll. Right now, I have 100 employees, and my profit per employee is very low. Like my biggest expenditure by far is payroll. The reason this bothers me is because it's a lot of drama to have a lot of employees. If you could have 20 or 30 core really good employees, I think that is better than the 100 employees I have now. Unfortunately, because of the demands of the logistics, we do need about somewhere between 80 and 100 people, going up to 120 during the holidays. So there's nothing I can really do about that. But when I'm looking at diversifying and looking at other businesses and everything, I definitely start looking away from high payroll businesses. Okay, another thing I learned: read everything. I know this goes without saying. People are always, read contract stuff. I mean, like, read everything. Like, for example, I have an accountant who did my business tax returns. It was 64 pages. And I went line by line and read everything. I checked every address, every spelling of my name, every time my social security number, phone number, or even I compare it to my end of year books to make sure they're putting the right numbers in there. And that's just one example. I mean, when it comes to like my contract with this company I service, I read everything they put out. I try to learn everything I can, and it made me very successful in my industry. Okay, so to let you know about, this leads me to my next part, where I fall in my industry. So the type of business I have is replicated by about 2,000 to 3,000 other people. Again, if you're in the industry, kind of I'm talking about, it's sort of a franchise model, with a little bit more firewall between you and the franchisor. We're not a franchise, it's just similar to that. Okay, so how did I become a leader there? Okay, so when we have conferences, I'm usually asked to speak there. I usually decline because I don't go to too many of the conferences. The reason I don't go to too many of the conferences is because I have a newborn baby, and I also have other responsibilities. My oldest son graduating high school, joining the Marines, so there's certain things I want to go there, and especially with my last decade of missing most of his stuff because I was deployed. I try to, now I'm here, I try to make all that stuff. But I'm regularly seen as being one of the leaders of the industry. One of the reasons is because the company I have a contract with does a lot to very objectively measure the success of a company, or at least, if not success, at least how well they're doing. So you get measured on safety procedures, consistency of work, reliability, all that stuff. And I love this. Coming from an economics background, I love the black and white nature of that. I know the mathematical formula to predict how the service company will see me in 6 months from now. I know what I have to do to be a A+ rated company, and I know it gets you knocked down to B, C, D, E, whatever. I had to read a lot of the contracts and stuff to learn how to do this, and some of it was trial and error, and I do a lot via spreadsheets. But it is something that I have come uniquely accustomed to, and I really like it. I like the fact that it's completely objective. It can be defined. It's this equals this. So because of this, I was able to, one, break down exactly what my expectations were of myself and my company, and then I was able to embed that culture into my company. Safety is a huge priority, so I embedded safety from day one. Even now, I tell my dispatchers to, every time they hang up the phone, tell the driver to be safe. I want them to end every conversation with, all right, be safe, and hang up. At the end of safety, we have safety meetings in the morning. At the end of the safety meeting, I want them to again say, be safe before everybody goes out. Safety is embedded in the culture. We emphasize it everywhere. Everything starts there. Now, that's a double-edged sword. Okay, so here's the thing. Within the service industry, or this type of service industry, I don't mean like waiter and waitress, I mean like The thing is, within the logistics industry, especially within the subcategory that I'm in with final mile deliveries, there is a certain culture where often leadership at these companies will tell their employees to look past certain things, because it's all about making certain numbers. So let's say you get into a van and your seatbelt's not functioning correctly. Certain leadership will be like, well, just use it today, we'll get it looked at tomorrow because they want that van out. Now, while I understand that from an owner perspective, why you don't want to take a van out of rotation for the day, the second you do that one time, just assume if one driver knows you said that, all your drivers are going to know you said that. And what you're teaching your drivers is that, hey, we're going to follow all the rules until it's inconvenient. And then we will overrule them and we're going to put you in danger and everything like that. What I like to do is when we do our safety inspections of the van, I like to do safety inspections after the drivers do and find things the drivers missed, whether it's a balding tire or whatever. And then I tell them to pull the van out, take it over to our fleet repair area, and get the tire replaced. Now, sometimes this is a pain. Sometimes it makes us late for something or whatever, but it instills a very much like, no, I have a way of doing this. It will be by the book, and you will adhere to my way. With that said, let's say I did do that with a driver. Usually the driver doesn't get in any trouble for it. I don't like to discipline drivers for trying to get the mission done in that way. But I do like to make sure to reiterate to them, like, hey, when you see a tire like this, make sure you report it. But you need certain things in place for that. You need tires ready to go to be replaced on these vans at any moment. You need fleet people that are on standby every morning to replace these tires. That costs money. And there you go. That's the reason why most employers don't do it. Because in order to have a lot of these things in there, it costs more money. Now, I built that into my monthly budget. My monthly payroll budget includes extra people for fleet and stuff like that, and I've made that work mathematically. So as long as I stick to my budget, I'm good. My budget includes a reserve. By the way, if you're starting your own business, always build in reserves. It's crazy how fast, like, unplanned expenses can rack up and just destroy your budget. So have reserves at all time. So besides emphasizing safety, which I do regularly and make sure everybody else does as well, I like to emphasize a few other things. One is customer service, where logistics in pretty much every job, if you break it down, is a customer service job. When I was doing air traffic control with the Navy, I was working for the pilots and the owners of the airspace. That's I was providing service to the pilots pretty much. When I did drones, I was hired by the U.S. Navy to provide a certain level of recon and intelligence and stuff like that. So the Navy was my customer. So my customer are my employees. Or I guess is my employees? No, are my employees. My customer is my employees. Yeah, because there's only one customer. My customer is my employees. My employees' customers are all the actual customers. And I remind them, like, they're in a customer service job. They are the face of this company, so they have to do well there. And we hold them by a very high standard. Now, there's only a couple ways we enforce that standard. One is incentives. I give out a lot of bonuses, and if you don't meet certain standards, you don't get that bonus. Now, that sucks, but it is a tool we use to keep you at a high degree. And although a lot of drivers become very used to getting the bonus and they get mad when we take it away because they didn't hit certain mile markers or whatever, it does keep the majority of our employees happy. Another thing we do, which I'm pretty happy about, is that we pay hourly. But if you finish early and you hit certain safety markers and delivery markers during your delivery day, if you finish early, we will still pay you for your full 10 hours. Now, this has been an incredible tool because it stops punishing people for being efficient with their time. There are some downsides to it, and if you're in the industry, you know what I'm talking about. You have something called route size creep, because since people aren't trying to make the clock stretch, they're all about finishing and going home as quickly as possible. So what happens is the computer system ends up thinking that they can move faster, and they do. So they start adding more routes or more stops on their route. That's an issue. And then the other issue is that there is a little bit of an issue with, again, drivers are trying to be quick. They want to go home, and they know you're going to get paid for the full 10 days or 10 hours, so it's not a big problem with them. But what they do is that they kind of rush through their route, and then their route quality goes down a little bit. Again, most of these issues can be mitigated just by paying attention and having consistent rules throughout your company, and that's what I've done. And like I said, I've been a front runner even with that. But what the benefits are is that you retain some of your best employees, because some of your better employees are the ones that are going to finish their day earlier than expected. Well, it makes sense not to punish them for it. So that's how I always looked at it, and so far I'm happy with it. And we've been around almost 2 years now, and so far I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about. One of the last things I didn't really think about before starting a business, and that is fleet maintenance. Fleet maintenance is crazy. I go through about 20 to 25 tires, individual tires, a month. It's just crazy how quick they go bald or are unevenly worn. It seems like nothing we do can get them worn evenly. So it is what it is. Besides that, you have a lot of people who don't treat the vehicle like their own. They end up, you don't have a lot of high intensity accidents, but you have a lot of people brushing up against poles and stuff, making tight turns, and taking the trim work off of the vans and dents on the side and stuff. And these vans are really expensive to repair if they get any dents. So what I've learned is that if it's a vehicle that's leased for the long term, then you pop the dent, you use a heat gun and a dent puller, pop it out best you can. If you can get behind it and hit it with like a ball peen hammer and on a mold, try not to hit the metal directly with a hammer. Try to use a mold of some kind to form the metal. Anyway, pop it out. Use some touch-up paint to fix it up, and then put the trim back on. And that's really the best you can do for that. Rental vehicles. I can only tell you from my experience with my one rental company that I use regularly. It is normally cheaper to return the vehicle with a little bit of damage than it is to try to get the damage fixed yourself. Most of these rental companies have services that they've been using for years who give them a good discount. So, it's just easier that way. Now, certain rental companies will take the van back. They will charge you for the repairs, but they won't actually do the repairs because they sell the van after they're done, especially if you've had a long-term rental. Now, I have an issue with this, but I understand where they're coming from. What they do is they're not charging you for the repair, although it is billed that way. They're charging you for the depreciations, because when they sell it, they know they're going to get less for it. It is what it is. I mean, I'm not gonna stress about it. Most of the rental companies I've worked with have treated me at least with a little bit of respect, but most have done really well by me. So I'm not gonna hate on them for being mad at me for my company causing damage to their van. So you just take the good with the bad on that one. Definitely invest in a good body kit, so you can try to learn how to do some of that. The issue is that a lot of times you'll hire somebody to take over that element of your business, the fleet element, and you really need somebody who's good and adaptive for that. Hard to find. I promoted a driver from within, and it's turned out pretty well. Now I have a total of 3 drivers that used to drive. They're now in the fleet program full time, and they do a really, really good job. But again, you're paying for that. You're paying for 3 people to not drive every day, so that is something to consider. All right, I think this video has gone on for quite long enough. I just want to give you a taste of the business that I'm in. I plan on talking more about it, and I'm sure some of you will figure out what business I'm in. And I can answer questions to the best of my ability, but I'm not going to put my contract at risk either. So please keep that in mind. Anyway, if you liked what you're watching, please give me a like, share, subscribe, and give me a comment if you want to talk about anything. Anyway, thank you for watching, and keep saving.